I also know that the media space could be under attack for obvious reasons. And who knows which other professions or which other constituencies of our society are also going to be under such threat. So, Uncle, it's a time to really reflect on our politics, on how we are running our country. That if people do have a divergent political opinion, we go for an onslaught. And I think last contribution would be, without getting too detailed on the basis for denying him bail, is that the 10 other junior journalists working in the media space who have been lined up as state witnesses. So there is conversation that if he had been released today on bail, he was going to interfere with these state witnesses. So nobody really knows as yet, but you can sense that there are tricks that are being played to really get or secure a conviction, if not a conviction, to secure a reasonable detention as a form of punishment for that which we know is a political dynamic. Lastly, but not least, Uncle, we know the person who is really responsible for uttering potentially inciting statements. Why can it? Why have they not arrested that person? So it's unfortunate that that is where we are. I do not think anytime soon they are going to, or they have the potential to really go after the main culprit if ever there is anything wrong with that which was uttered. So it's a tricky situation. Instead of going for the jugular, you go for somebody who has been used in as an accessory. Yeah, go for the person who is responsible for inciting public violence if you think it is wrong. So it could be a few individuals who are politically um, exposed, who are using their political power to settle political scores. And I've read on some few people's Twitter handles conversations about the POSB expose and the recent one where the senior war veteran spoke eloquently about what is happening in our country. So those, for now, Uncle, without really wasting much of your time, are my comments in respect to what I saw at the Rotten Row Magistrate Court today.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you so much, Lennon Rizzi. I think he has summarized everything, Titus, to be honest with you. And also, thank you so much for attending the court, for going to court. It's always good and refreshing to hear from people who are on the grounds, right? People who come through to spaces, they contribute, then they also take action. And I think you have summarized everything, to be honest, in terms of the points that I wanted to put across. But I think now it's very much apparent that Blessed Mhlanga was not arrested for expressing his personal views or for inciting violence. It's just this ZANU-PF regime that's abusing the law like what they always do. They take advantage of laws that are vague. Fellow Zimbabweans, do you know right now as we speak, Potras is in the process of teaching organizations, different people on the new laws, like the laws that came through the Zimbabwe Data Protection Act in think it was in 2021. And according to Potras, they've got a deadline to say, hey, you need to make sure that if you're a company, a business, you are in full compliance by March, I think they said March 15 or something, 2025. Then after that, you are liable as a business. While this is happening, you will notice that Blessed Mhlanga is the first victim after the enactment in 2021. I know there were other laws that were very much vague, laws that were used to target Ivan Mawarire right from the first dispensation of the Robert Mugabe era, which is the law that was vague, the same law that was used to target Wopo Chingono, Ngarivume, and Wiwa. So ZANU-PF will just make use of laws that are vague. So we need to do something as Zimbabweans, and thank goodness and thank God that we do have a space on Friday where we are going to discuss. I wish I was recording Mercy, but I think I'll go back to the to this space after Ango is closed to and I'll ask Ango to play Mercy's submission as opening remarks for that space, if possible, because I felt when you look at ZANU-PF, if you are going to take the preamble as it was presented by Mercy here, right? You don't put it in quotes, you just put the preamble of our constitution. You put it out there. You will not be surprised to see Josephat, right, behind your back, trying to victimize you at the perception that you are causing violence or you're inciting people, to be violent. That's how vile our situation is. The sources that I've seen on X, it looks like the Josephat guy is the same guy. Remember the guy who was trying to abduct Promise Mkwanans in 2023, right? So I've seen messages titled to the effect that he's the same guy, right? And he has a daughter who is studying journalism at MSU right now, right? This same guy who is victimizing journalists, he has a daughter who is studying journalism, media studies, and journalism. And I don't know if you would be okay with a situation whereby her daughter or his daughter will be targeted at some point in time just because the ZANU-PF government feels that they are not accountable to anyone. No one can ask them questions. It's just that it's just crazy. But I think my brother there has summarized everything. But the last point that I just wanted to put across, Titus, is Blessed Mhlanga should he have not been arrested in the first place. He should have not been, must have not been arrested. And whatever charges Awakaleya, those charges will not stick, right? But they are going to use their tactics, the same tactics that they have used, because we don't have a situation in Zimbabwe where we'll go back to Nosua, the state. I know there is precedence in the Justina Mkoko's case, right? But if you look at the amount of victimization that she suffered, she's still suffering right now. Then you look at the compensation that she received from the High Court, right? So you compare the two, you see that we have a problem. That's why the government, they can do whatever they want because they know that there are no consequences. So time is now for us as citizens to act. Otherwise, there's no one who is coming to help us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Smothers. And yes, you absolutely nail it as well on the head to say it's a pattern that we know what's going to happen. And if anybody was to predict, the idea behind it is not that he has done anything, Blessed Mhlanga. He hasn't, but they are going to punish him to show the strength of power, to show how they can manipulate the cost. Just to give an example to anyone else who would want to try and do the same. And I think you're right to call for citizens to say, you know what, sometimes there comes a time when people should just unify and come with one voice, whichever way the citizens decide to do, but to say enough is enough, and we stand with one of ours. You do that to one of us, you are doing it to everybody. And I think that is the only thing I think that will stop it, because when citizens come in numbers, there's definitely power. And when they see that there's that pressure, there's that power, it's in social media, it's on the ground, it's everywhere. But everyone is standing with the right thing. I think it will come to show. But much appreciate that anyway. So I think I was going to Kunamunu, then I go to Rumbi.
Right. Thanks, Move Titus, and thanks, Uncle Jet, for opening the space. Zvakutange so because how did we get here? Where a journalist like Blessed Mhlanga is caged for conducting an interview, but gold smugglers are roaming free. Job Scholar spent almost 600 plus days in pre-trial detention, but those who loot national resources, they live in luxury, and they post it and they show it on our faces. So where the system thrives on fear, oppression, and silence, it's just like North Korea, where a nation, its power is built on control, not consent. I liked it when Smarter said, Uncle Jed, you should play that part when Masi was talking. Masi akatanga kuchimhanya soka. You get those goosebumps. You can something, because we have to do something, because I don't think we are seeing it. Because there is a cult of personality where speaking against the leader is treated as treason. So these short trials where justice is a script written by the powerful will not work. There are disappearances, there are tortures, there are imprisonments, where critics of the state are dealt with in the dark and their voices are silenced before they can echo anything. Right now, where we are standing, the poverty and suffering, while a tiny elite live like emperors. It's just like what I was watching that documentary of North Korea. The tiny elite in Pyongyang, the way they live, it's exactly what is going on in Zimbabwe. So, are we the North Korea of Africa? Is Zimbabwe? We need to ask ourselves and accept where we are and who we are before anything can happen. Because we are not any different from North Korea. There in North Korea, they criminalize free thought. They arrest journalists for asking questions. There in North Korea, they silence opposition leaders. Here, they make examples of job seeker. Akadzoka akutaura ngeMandela. Sika. Takudzwa ngadzora. Akamhanya sei pakabatwa zvikwakwa. The people are kept in state of survival, so they can never have time to resist. That's why there's poverty in Zimbabwe, because you are kept in perpetual. Right. So what I was saying there in North Korea, you are kept in perpetual state of survival, where you don't have time to resist. And here in Zimbabwe, we are made to hustle for bread while real criminals get rich. That's where our problem is, because we are told that this is normal, this is stability, this is peace and tranquility. Ndakavoice Emerson guy. But how can we call it peace when fear is their national language? Because languages anuka check the timeline yavo vese kutyisidzirana so kuvhundutsirana so anzi enda unorakasha. You understand? Zvigananda vese vanenge vachingovhundutsirana ndokutyisidzirana kuradzana masimba. So to the rulers of Zimbabwe, why are you afraid of your own people? If your leadership is legitimate, why must it be defended with riot police, tear gas, and prison cells? Why? If you truly represent the people, why do you fear what they might say? If your power comes from the people, why must they be forced to obey? If you are building a democracy, why does it look more like a dictatorship? Us as people, how many more must be jailed before we say enough? How many must die in exile, in prisons, in poverty before we take back what is ours? How long will we keep waiting for a signal when the suffering is already loudest alarm? Hapana siri kusafa pese patiri pana, not even one. Anenge achiti haasi kusafa ari kutonyepa togona kutokuratidza zvanhasi kwete mangwana. You rallied for that thing yaiitika pakabatwa sikala paya paya, but apa tiri kuita sei ukuona kuti kuna kurussia pane mufesi akabatwa anonzi Navalny. Russia yakapinda paroad, zvinhu zvakapisa town. Tarisawo nezvakaitika kuti dzamara akatotsakatika. Same thing zvakaitika naKhashoggi. Saka you understand kuti the cycle, it does not allow you to even have outrage in you. The African that we have is an Africa of suffering, and it does not provoke enough. We are not outraged enough as a people. You can jail the journalists, but you cannot jail the truth. You can silence activists, but you cannot silence the hunger in the people's hearts. You can steal the votes, but you cannot steal the people's desire to be free. Today you can suppress, but history will always remember the oppressors. There's a speaker that spoke here before. Ataura akati, we need to create a register revarakashi nevadzvanyiriri nezvigananda nemadictators. Tikogara tingone patinogona kungovaona kuti ava varipo ndo ava ndo pavari. Tikangodaro chete tingogara tichingovaonawo soga, I think it's not zvinotibatsira. Saka Uncle Jed, right now where we are standing, the future is ours and no more waiting. Zimbabweans, we are not weak. We have been conditioned to believe so. And Zimbabweans, we are not helpless. We are just waiting for someone else to act. And also, Zimbabweans, we are not North Koreans. Because North Koreans, they do not know they are oppressed. But we do. And because we know, we have a duty to act. So, I ask you, the listeners and Uncle Jed, how will history remember us? As a people who waited or as a people who refused? Because the time to decide is now. Thanks, Uncle Jed.
So what I wanted to say is just taking from what my brother said just now. What breaks my heart is that Zimbabweans are fighting, but foreigners are taking everything, while we have nothing. We're fighting and fighting all the time, and the people are just taking and taking. We'd rather sing and say to each other, no, Zimbabwe end. But foreigners are welcomed and they will take everything. Billions of dollars are living in the country. But Zimbabweans are working as slaves in other countries. You know, I've been talking to a lot of people. Mamosha Daguchema like this on the phone with we don't understand why we're suffering. Kuma foreign lands, people are suffering, but they're coming from a very rich country. Surely, Zimbabweans, we need to start having conversations that are authentic, where we have to put politics aside and say, what are we really doing? I'm looking at where in that court there, Muruma terrorist account or something, whatever it's called. That guy is the same guy that once went to where the Triple C were having a meeting, and then I'm looking at this man, and I'm asking myself, do you even know billions are leaving the country? I think we need to redefine what being a Zimbabwean means. And we need to redefine what stewardship really means. Because whenever I look at other countries, it's always in our country, where we would rather be slaves than taking care of what God has blessed us with. We have everything. We can all be rich and we all drive all cars that we want. We can build our roads. We can eat and drink and live with our children. Marriages can thrive. But no, we would rather fight each other. Foreigners are looting everything. It doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense. All this oppositionism, we need to stop all this political nonsense and look at each other and say, what are we really doing? Because we seem like we are living this illusion that does not exist. We have our own world that does not exist. We will choose fighting than to choose loving each other. When are we going to introspect? Because when I actually don't think politics is the problem. You know, their own brother. A grown man. I'm talking about a grown man. And then, but foreigners are everything. Surely, brothers and sisters, this is not political. This is bigger than politics. Is actually just exposing people. Look at Mnangagwa as easier. This man Mnangagwa as he is right now. If I sit and ask him a question, what are you doing? He can't explain. You would rather eat Nema China than seeing his own brothers and sisters in the same country eating. Is that political? Or it's embedded within our family structures where we do not have love in our hearts? We'd rather see your cousin suffering and then you can look better than promote your family to succeed, because you know when your family succeed, you succeed. I see people fight and attack Chamisa. Chamisa's opposition were given money. All manner of garbage. Chamisa is not the commander-in-chief in Zimbabwe. He's not the president. If Chamisa can be given money, it means the commander-in-chief needs to go. So you always attack each other than looking at the main problem of saying, Mnangagwa need to give us answers. Or he must go. He must go not because of politics, because he is not what we want as a nation. He does not have leadership qualities. Not because it's no, forget about the politics thing. He is not a leader and he must go. Standing on principles, not on hatred, not on division, not on all this political, just some madness. We fighting. Foreigners are taking everything. Motors, but in fact, I heard that in Beira there's already I don't know, somebody mentioned about a depot or something that is it could minerals and depot as you and me are fighting for nothing, absolutely nothing. I just thought maybe if I can remind you, we're actually not even poor at all, but we lack stewardship. We lack love for ourselves. We don't think that we matter. If we want a solution in Zimbabwe today, we have it. But no, we choose to blame each other. We choose to hurt each other. We choose to attack each other. Right now, whatever, intelligence, all manner of crap. These guys are working for peanuts, but they are fighting to protect foreigners who are looting billions of dollars. Show me any country that is so stupid, except that happens in Zimbabwe. We should be billionaires today and running successful business and families. We would rather protect a criminal, a foreign criminal, to protect what God has blessed them for their own children and generations. Surely we need to reshape our thinking. It's all it's in the mind. Something is not right with us Zimbabweans. We cannot remain in foreign lands. And when we know our country is filthy rich, we are telling also we left because we think we can get better jobs. But you are living billions of dollars in your own country. What better jobs are you talking about?
Okay, I'll jump
Okay,
in.
yeah, go ahead.
We have to understand simple things. Oppression has consequences, and that's why it's done to people. It causes them to become something. Oppression undermines your ability and capacity to act against something. We cannot victim blame people who have been oppressed, not for 45 years. Remember, they had just come off another oppressive system and jumped straight into a system. Our role as citizens now is to assist each other to gain agency so that we can attend to urgent situations. Now, it is very important that now that we have diagnosed the problem, we have motivated ourselves enough with the consequences of our lived experience. Now we must gather the skills and the tools to resist. That is the missing ingredient. Just being angry is not enough. Knowing that the solution is resistance is not enough. It is time to learn how to resist. Effective methods, important values and principles. And this calls for other citizens to teach others. We cannot keep going to the community to victimize them. They do not act because all the structures, systems, models that they are supposed to use to save themselves have been pulled from under their feet. Now we must build those things that bring the tools, the knowledge, the values, and the principles to do it. People are standing in solidarity with Blessed Mhlanga. That you do not see them at court is indicative of the repression that they face. The last time they attended court, most recently with the Timber Group, an old lady exited that courtroom, having been battered black and blue, crying. And now the government is testing how effective their repressive system is by wanting us to believe that unless we stand in court in solidarity, we are affecting the outcome of Blessed Mhlanga. Now they are saying courts are there to judge. The public opinion is now what motivates the judicial system. And we shouldn't fall for that narrative. People didn't turn up because they are oppressed, and the government has commandeered the institutions of state to repress them. And now they are fearful. What we must be injecting back in the community is the tools, the knowledge to be able to go and defend their right to do those things so that they can effect agency into their situation. Victim blaming time is gone. Acknowledge that they are oppressed people. Now help them. Let's motivate. Let us empower. And empowerment goes beyond words. It is skilling people. It is tooling people, giving them the means, creating the opportunities for them to do that. You cannot stand in front of an abused victim merely regurgitating that their inability to act is the cause of their abuse. You'll be ignoring what the monster is doing to them. But if you begin to say, here is the refuge that you can go to, this is the number that you can call, these are the means. When you see this, this is your opportunity to do that. And for us to do any effective resistance, we now need to move to the point where we begin. Those of us with critical autonomy must begin to tool up, means up, opportunity create, and go and insert the values that will make a fearful person draw from within themselves and around their community the agency to act. We cannot victim blame as oppressed people. We are all on the ground, depending on what you are borrowing to the struggle. If it is knowledging people up, you do not need to be on the ground to do so. You just need access to them to teach them. If you are skilling them up, you also do not need to be physically present there. You can skill them up by sending them the resources that will empower them to effect agency. So there are many things maybe on Friday we would need to go into to determine solutions
Right.
on how to do an effective resistance.